And to this day, you still have not provided an adequate explanation for removing them. As far as I can tell, you fired C.Q. Brown because he was black and Lisa Franchetti because she is a woman. So nearly 4 months later, we still don't have a new nominee for Chief of Naval Operations. News reports, and you can contest it, but I'd love to hear your answer, say that you haven't nominated someone because qualified admirals keep turning the position down.
He fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Chief of Naval Operations, sparking widespread speculation that race and gender influenced the decisions. Now, for months later, even some of the military's most qualified admirals are reportedly turning down the job.
I have to say, your training at Fox News has let you spin months of dangerous dysfunction and incompetence into catchy phrases like restoring the warrior ethos and increasing lethality. But the truth is, it's really been chaos at the Pentagon under your leadership. You've clearly shown you're unable to manage the Department of Defense, but what I'm most concerned about are 3 specific areas: your operational incompetence, your managerial incompetence, and your budgetary incompetence. So let's start with operational. According to news reports, in your first week on the job, you got confused in a National Security Council meeting and thought President Trump wanted you to stop all aid to Ukraine. In a well-functioning administration, you would have asked for clarification before making that seismic policy shift, but instead you ordered vital military aid heading to the front lines turned around, costing the U.S. millions of dollars and depriving Ukrainian soldiers of equipment they needed to fight Russia. So, Mr. Secretary, can you explain how exactly you misunderstood such a monumental presidential order?
One of many fake news headlines we've dealt with.
So President Trump told you to halt military aid to Ukraine on January 30th?
As is often the case, highly ideological and very ill-informed reporters love to speculate about things they know nothing about in order to spear President Trump and myself.
So it sounds like actually the reporting is correct, because I will say, if it wasn't a mistake, why did aid restart only a few days later?
Again, we would take complete issue with what would some call reporting and others call a hatchet job.
So why did aid start just a couple days later?
I'm saying the reporting is inaccurate, ma'am.
I don't think that's correct. So let's move on to your managerial incompetence. I think we can see why you misunderstood the president, because you're obviously misunderstanding my questions. Less than a month into the job, you fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, C.Q. Brown, and the Chief of Naval Operations, Lisa Franchetti, without cause.
That wasn't a tough question. It was a devastating moment on the public stage. A former Fox News host stepped into one of the most powerful positions in the U.S. government and almost immediately found himself facing criticism over reported policy reversals, confusion surrounding military decisions, and repeated claims about restoring the warrior ethos. Critics argue this isn't the steady leadership expected from a Secretary of Defense. They see a media personality struggling to navigate one of the world's most demanding national security roles, while experienced officials continue to leave the Pentagon. If this opening caught your attention, hit the like button and let me know in the comments. Which moment surprised you the most?
So tell me, Mr. Secretary, when will Congress receive your nomination for the next chairman of the next Chief of Naval Operations?
Ma'am, with all due respect, I would suggest not believing every headline you read.
With all due respect, I'd like your nomination. When will we see it?
There has not a single admiral or any military official has turned down a position that's been...
So when will we see your nominee for the Chief of Naval Operations?
In due time, for all the right reasons.
Again, I think we've seen the managerial incompetence. Okay, let's move on to budgetary incompetence. You missed the deadline to submit a draft defense budget to Congress, which makes it impossible for us to complete our work on the NDAA or appropriations, and makes it more likely you'll receive delays in funding you need for new acquisitions, programs, and other priorities.
Listen closely to what unfolded. When asked about a nominee for Chief of Naval Operations, the only answer was, in due time. Months later, the position remained unfilled. Around the same time, the Pentagon also missed the deadline for submitting its defense budget to Congress, a delay that can complicate work on the National Defense Authorization Act and the appropriations bills that fund the military. Critics argue this wasn't just another bureaucratic delay. They say it reflected deeper concerns about leadership, planning, and the Pentagon's ability to keep critical responsibilities on track. According to multiple current and former Defense Department officials quoted in media reports, morale inside the Pentagon has deteriorated. They claim that after senior leaders were dismissed, key positions remained vacant, and confidence in the department's direction continued to decline. Behind closed doors, the concerns reportedly became even sharper. More than a dozen people with direct knowledge of the Pentagon's operations under Pete Hegseth described an organization struggling with uncertainty and internal turmoil. One longtime employee reportedly became emotional while describing what they viewed as a lack of preparedness inside the secretary's office. Another source summarized the situation by saying, "Pete is playing secretary. He's not being secretary." Several officials also argued that many of the department's most experienced decision-makers had already departed, leaving fewer senior leaders with the background needed to manage a major international crisis. During the escalation between Israel and Iran, some reportedly questioned whether the Pentagon's leadership team was prepared for a prolonged conflict. The same sources claimed Hegseth focused heavily on public appearances, fitness events with service members, and cultural issues such as policies affecting transgender troops, while growing increasingly concerned about leaks and internal loyalty.
In addition, in an incredibly disturbing incident, there was a pop-up shop selling MAGA merchandise on post at Fort Bragg. And to summarize this, there was a commander from Bragg who said on the record, quote, "This has been a bad week for the Army. For anyone who cares about us being a neutral institution, this was shameful." If those are the facts, and I know the Army is investigating at least the MAGA pop-up shop, is that appropriate, General Kane?
Sir, I haven't seen any of these reports. I'm not familiar with them, but as I mentioned earlier and in my confirmation hearing, the nation demands a apolitical, nonpartisan military.
I appreciate you saying that and happy to share those reports. Secretary Hegseth, are you familiar with DoD Directive 1344.10? Political activities of the members of the armed forces?
Well, first off, I don't buy into your
yes or no?
insinuation
Are you familiar
that pledges
with,
are being done under this administration. That's
I reclaim my
insinuation.
time. Are you familiar with this DoD directive?
There's never one time in my service or in this
Mr.
Defense
Secretary,
Department.
will you please answer
I'm answering your
these
question
questions?
where politics has been considered for service members.
Are you familiar with this directive? Yes or no?
Which directive?
DoD Directive 1344.10. I'm happy to provide you a copy. There's even a one-page red and green cheat sheet. Are you familiar with it? This is the same directive from when we were all in uniform.
I'm sure I am.
Has anything changed in that directive under your guidance, given what happened 2 days ago at Fort Bragg? Is there a new policy change that we're not aware of?
Again, I totally reject your insinuation.
Is there a policy change to DoD Directive 1344.10?
I know what you're attempting to insinuate, but there's
I'll
no
take that as a
policy
no.
change and there is no policy.
Mr. Secretary, have you ever worn a MAGA hat in front of the troops?
I own plenty of MAGA hats, but I don't.
Have you ever worn one in front of the troops at an official event? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to wear political merchandise, including a MAGA hat, at official events, including West Point commencement?
The Commander-in-Chief
Yes or no?
can wear whatever hat he wants, to include the phrase, "Make America Great Again," because I would like to make America great again as well.
So you think that's appropriate?
The Commander-in-Chief has the right in front of his troops to wear whatever he'd like.
Okay, I strongly disagree with you. And I urge you both, especially you, General Kane, as we see an increasingly political rhetoric, including from the Secretary.
Critics say this is the environment that has taken hold inside the Pentagon, a military installation reportedly hosting a MAGA merchandise stand while political symbolism takes center stage. They argue the Secretary of Defense has placed an increasing emphasis on political loyalty, raising concerns that allegiance is being valued over experience and professional judgment. To those critics, that's a troubling shift for an institution expected to remain focused on national defense rather than partisan politics.
When asked you about the legal authority for the Marines in my state, I disagree with you. I thought not only do I not want Marines in Iran, I don't want them in California. But I don't want to get a gotcha. You know, they said, what provision? Your administration since then has filed in the federal district court. You're arguing that the Marines should be allowed to defend federal property. I disagree with you. That's your argument. Here's where I hope we can agree. Whatever the federal district court decides, will you abide by it?
Well, this is a pending situation.
So will you agree, though, that it's not my legal view, it's not your legal view that makes the decision in America. It's the federal judiciary. If the federal court in California and the San Francisco, this district judge has orders a preliminary injunction, will you agree to abide by the federal courts?
What I will tell you is my job right now is to ensure the troops that we have in Los Angeles are capable of supporting law enforcement in there.
Sir, I agree with that, but will you?
And we know
can
we
you
have the
just assure,
constitutional and statutory authority.
That's fine, but can you just assure us that you'll abide by the decisions of the courts?
We've always looked at the decisions of
the Vice President has said that he doesn't believe that the courts should be respected in military matters.
This is not my lane, but we also recognize that the way in which the judiciary has expanded its powers.
But can you just give a simple? Okay, let me ask you this: two simple questions. You got 30 seconds. I'm not trying to trick you. I think it would assure the American people, because it shouldn't be Ro Khanna's view of the Constitution. It shouldn't be Secretary Hegseth's. It should be the Supreme Court and the federal courts. Can you assure the American people on two things? You will respect any Supreme Court decision on this matter about whether the Marines are constitutional, and you will respect the district courts when they rule before the Supreme Court rules.
What I can say is we should not have local judges determining foreign policy or national security policy for the country.
So you're not willing to say you would respect those decisions?
What I'm saying is local district judges shouldn't make foreign policy for the United States.
The controversy didn't stop there. During congressional questioning, Hegseth was also criticized for declining to give a direct answer about whether he would comply with a federal court order if one conflicted with administration policy. For his critics, that moment raised even deeper concerns about accountability and civilian oversight. They argue the issue is no longer just about management mistakes. Instead, they contend the Secretary of Defense has weakened confidence within his own department, driven experienced professionals out of key roles, and placed political loyalty ahead of the effective operation of the Pentagon. According to multiple current and former Pentagon officials who spoke to reporters, frustration inside the building continued to grow. What began as private concerns among career staff gradually spilled into public view, painting a picture of an organization facing mounting internal tensions.
In an extraordinary move, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is right now working to impose sweeping new rules on America's top generals and Pentagon officials, requiring them to submit to random lie detector tests, according to the Washington Post. It comes as senior officials are also now being forced to sign strict new non-disclosure agreements, barring release of non-public information without approval or through a defined process. CNN has reported on these non-disclosure agreements, but tonight the Post is learning new information that the Pentagon is now considering a much more aggressive approach. National security lawyer Mark Zaid, who represents several Trump administration whistleblowers, including one at the Pentagon, sounding the alarm, telling the Post, quote, "This seems to be far more directed at ensuring loyalty to the DOD, the former Department of Defense, and the Trump administration leadership rather than countering any foreign espionage." Out front now with the new details, Tara Kopp, Pentagon reporter with the Washington Post. And Tara, I really appreciate seeing you again. All right, so it is just pretty stunning just to take a step back and think that we're now in a moment we're going to submit the top generals in the United States to random lie detector tests. You trust them in fields of combat, but you don't trust them. Who is going to be subject to these polygraphs and NDAs?
Well, this is what we're hearing. According to the officials we've spoken to and the documents we viewed, this new program would be much broader and much more intimidating in nature and could potentially affect thousands of people who work for not only the Defense Secretary, but also for the Joint Staff and the Chairman, General Dan Kane. So according to the documents that we viewed, it's also much broader in what kind of information might be withheld.
In June, CNN published an investigation based on interviews with 15 current and former Pentagon officials. According to those sources, the concerns had grown beyond ordinary workplace frustration. They described what they believed was a culture increasingly shaped by fear and uncertainty. Several officials told CNN that personnel involved in certain sensitive operations were required to sign non-disclosure agreements and, in some cases, undergo polygraph examinations. One source claimed that many decisions were judged through a single question: will this help the boss, or will it put his job at risk? If that assessment is accurate, critics argue it represents a serious breakdown in leadership. They contend that when protecting senior leadership becomes more important than solving problems, decision-making slows, accountability weakens, and effective chains of command begin to suffer. Current and former officials also pointed to a wave of departures among senior military leaders. They argued that confidence inside the Pentagon had deteriorated and that experienced officers increasingly viewed top assignments as politically risky. What began as criticism of one leader, they said, had evolved into broader concerns about the department's internal culture and decision-making. Critics argue that the central issue is no longer isolated controversies, but a leadership style they believe places political loyalty above professional expertise. They point to reports of a MAGA merchandise stand appearing on a military installation as an example of what they see as the growing overlap between partisan politics and the armed forces. Supporters, however, have disputed that interpretation. The controversy deepened during congressional questioning when Hegseth was asked whether he would comply with a federal court order concerning military deployments. Rather than giving a simple yes or no response, he questioned the role of federal judges in matters involving national security. Opponents viewed that answer as troubling, while supporters argued he was emphasizing the executive branch's constitutional authority. Critics warned that institutions rarely decline through one dramatic event. Instead, they argue they weaken through a series of smaller decisions that gradually place political considerations above professional standards. They say career officers eventually learn which views are rewarded, which are discouraged, and when speaking candidly may carry professional risks. Many longtime observers of the Defense Department have noted that every administration experiences internal disagreements. But they argue the current criticism centers on something different: the perception that political alignment has become increasingly important in leadership decisions. More broadly, critics contend that appointing a television personality with limited experience managing a large national security bureaucracy created predictable challenges. They argue that media skills and political messaging are not substitutes for institutional leadership. Supporters, meanwhile, counter that Hegseth was chosen specifically to challenge Pentagon bureaucracy and implement the president's agenda. The larger debate extends beyond one individual. It asks whether the Department of Defense can maintain its traditional reputation for professionalism while navigating an increasingly polarized political environment. Critics warn that if experienced personnel become reluctant to speak openly or deliver unwelcome advice, readiness and decision-making could ultimately suffer. Trust, they argue, is the foundation of any military institution. Trust within the chain of command, trust between Congress and the Pentagon, and trust among allies who depend on American leadership. Whether those concerns prove lasting remains a matter of ongoing political and public debate. These questions continue to shape congressional hearings, media investigations, and discussions about the future direction of the Pentagon. As more information emerges, the debate over leadership, accountability, and the role of politics in national defense is likely to remain at the center of the conversation.